What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Make sure you just hammer that subscribe button right below. Just smash that big red button. Join the crew. We're doing daily videos Monday through Friday, all about this ridiculous financial revolution, once in a lifetime crypto, macro, life domination, excitement. 2018, we are getting started. Let me move this mic up a little bit. And it's good to be back. It feels great to be back in the driver's seat. And what we're talking about a little bit today is a little bit more of an unfolding of the bigger coins and as they relate to altcoins. Specifically, there seems to be I would say a faction of people that are starting to see some movements happening, as we talked about yesterday, which happened in the last 24 hours, what that means for you and for your altcoins. We're going to talk about trading strategies, how to kind of play these two off of each other. I want to talk about a few different altcoin trends. I want to talk specifically about my best trade of 2017. Some of you guys may have seen this on Twitter and the thought process behind it, why I wasn't all over YouTube and Twitter telling everyone to go buy it. And then a few just interesting macro things that I think you guys would find helpful, or some resources. I'll link all this up. Just some good old-fashioned content that you guys, I think, will get a lot out of. Looking at Bitcoin, remember, so I think it's important to remember where we are in the cycle here. It's January 2nd, and today is the first day back of the financial markets. So as we talked about yesterday, everyone's coming back. You're seeing wire transfers start to hit Coinbase, Gemini, Bithumb, Bitstamp, whatever. They're all starting to hit from the US. This does not mean that it's necessarily the big rush, right? There's probably going to be another week, 2 weeks where the real money comes in because they still have to have meetings about it. But you are going to start to see some fresh new money come in. And realize that the big money goes after the big coins, usually the ones that are either at the top of the list or definitely the ones that you can trade on the actual exchanges like GDAX. So in this case, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. We're not really, Bitcoin Cash doesn't really have it's not really in the same authoritative state yet. Even if it has a market cap, reputation still needs some work. This is just from talking to a handful of people that are ready to put in a lot of money from the fund standpoint. So as we see that, we're going to see Bitcoin start to get more steam back, as it already has. You're going to start to see some dominance come back, and you're going to start to see some of these altcoins having a harder time getting the pops, much to the dismay of many retail investors. But if you have been around, if you scroll back to whatever, like May and June, this is what happened. Like Bitcoin kind of petered off. Altcoins had an unbelievable run. And then Bitcoin just came screaming through and just decimated everything from a BTC standpoint. From a US dollar standpoint, everyone did okay. So it's not really a bad thing. It's just important. And if you look at this is exactly what we had yesterday, the Fibonacci retracement. I mean, it bounced off this pretty perfectly. This is a 1-day chart. Let me go to a 4-hour chart just so you can see a little bit more clearly. Bounced off of it, came back, didn't touch it on the second support level. But we're pretty much fully back in here, so to speak. It was at low 1300s yesterday. We're already back up to 14.6. So obviously this isn't enough movement to say that the trend is changing, but just from a retracement standpoint, that looks good. It looks like we're on the right track. What you would want to do next, which we're not going to do right now because this isn't overly technical, is you'd probably want to draw some sort of channel lines, probably from where I drew this retracement, to make sure we're still within a bullish channel. Meaning if this trend line, if this downtrend that we've been experiencing since middle of December, so give or take, if this keeps going, at some point it breaks the overall parabolic bull run. And right now, it's bouncing off of that channel for the most part. It's also retracing. So you can put together a few of these different aspects to get a good idea, to understand not only when it's going to bounce back, but for how long it's going to continue to go sideways. All signs would point to it's going to bounce up it's going to consolidate, and then it's going to start running maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, so to speak. So Bitcoin's back. A lot of new money's flowing into Bitcoin. We also see this in Ethereum. I'm looking at Bitfinex's Ethereum just because on Coinbase they have that one flash crash. It messes up the charts anytime you try to scroll out, which is really annoying. Yesterday we talked about how Ethereum was looking really good. They're having multiple consolidation patterns. It's actually a lot easier to see this on the Coinbase chart. So I'm just going to pull it up, even though it has that ridiculous, down thing or whatever. And I'm going to take it off log for a second, because without the log, you can really see especially this one that happened early in December, major accumulation phase where it just, it kind of went sideways. You're seeing an even bigger one that happened in the last week or so, and now you're seeing it pop right off of it. There's a bit of a triangle happening there, but you can almost like steps up, right? This is a very bullish pattern that we've seen time and time again from different coins, as we talked about yesterday. So let me push that back on log, bring myself back up. I think Ethereum is going to continue to do well. There's nothing about Ethereum in particular. It's just the chart looks really good. So I wouldn't be surprised if that pushed its way up to, high 900s to almost 1,000. That'd be a very big psychological resistance. And then it's really up to the scaling of Ethereum. If they can figure out that with Plasma and Raiden and all this, Casper, so to speak, it's a good sign. And similarly with Litecoin, look, this is exactly what we looked at yesterday. We've got the same retracement. So on the daily candle, this thing is popping back off. You're seeing the volume start to come back, no surprise. Seeing wires hit GDAX and Gemini and all this. And you can do the math from here. So the reason why we're looking at this is because it's easy to forget the bigger picture of where we're at and what the tail that wags the dog in crypto. Eventually, it's going to change. We talked about this a couple months ago many times, how at some point Bitcoin's dominance is going to really fade away. I think it's going to be when a lot of these exchanges allow you to go from fiat to altcoins, whether it be Coinbase, where they list a lot more, whether it be Bittrex, where they allow fiat infusions or anything else. I think that's going to be a very, very big deal. But until that happens, these three still run the show, even with Ripple being up there and Bitcoin Cash to a certain extent being up there and these other market caps being higher, because these are the ones where the fiat can flow directly in. They're going to absorb a huge amount of volume and dictate a lot of the market, especially Bitcoin. So I think that that's important because it's good to have these in your portfolio as you build out your portfolio. Times like the last 2 weeks, it's often you kind of look at what's going on. You step back and you realize, oh my gosh, my portfolio is 90% small cap altcoins or ICOs or stuff that you've been trying to scalp, trade, or profit or whatever. Many of you probably have done really well with this stuff. But it's, especially with the new year, with a new tax year, all this sort of thing, it's important to remember that when these big boys start to surge, you want to have some balance in your portfolio. And all signs are pointing to these two, especially Bitcoin, Litecoin. Those are the two that I really like. Ethereum, I think, looks great. It's just, for me personally, I already have enough Ethereum. So that's why it's important, is for portfolio balance reasons. It's so that it's not feast or famine, because that causes really bad decision making, and it's really difficult to have consistent growth over the next 12 months without some sort of balance in your portfolio. Cool. All right. So as we look through the altcoins, you're going to start to see a little bit more of a mix of green and red. The last few days has been all green. Now we're starting to see a little bit of the green and red. That's not a coincidence based on this. And over the next couple days, we'll get into this. The ones that I will definitely tell you, on top of the trends that we discussed in yesterday's video, I think the China coins are a very good bet for altcoin. I think Neo is a good bet. I own some Neo. I don't own a lot, so I'm not trying to promote it or anything. But I think that that's a really good bet in terms of China having a big bull run year in crypto. So if you're going to look at anything for your portfolio, I would look at China coins as a very good hedge. And you can go through this. I think Qtum, however you want to say it, Neo, go have a majority of it in the bigger coins. There's a lot of people talking about VeChain, I believe, is in China, or VenChain, or whatever we're going to call it. Things like that, I think, are a good basket for 2018 to at least have something for your portfolio. So keep an eye on that, and we'll continue to look into which these can be. The reason why I like Neo and Qtum, honestly, is because they're ICO platforms. They're going to be ICO platforms. They also have seemingly good relationships with the Chinese government. That's a very good 1-2 punch. We saw what happened with Ethereum when they became an ICO platform. Worked out really well. So moving on to what people are mostly interested in right now, which is how do you find the 100x return coins? And anybody who's been watching or listening to this show for the past however many months, I really try to stay away from the moonshot stuff, because it's a tough it's a tough long-term strategy. It can work, but realize that it's hard to make a repeatable strategy out of high risk, high reward stuff by definition. That being said, I posted this on Twitter yesterday. I bought some Ryblocks when it was right around $11 or 11 cents. I'm sorry. I can't remember when it was. It was sometime in the summer. And I'm not going to talk about how much, because I'm not really interested. Putting amounts is not a good idea, in my opinion. Needless to say, it was a 27,000% ROI so far, which is great. And the questions a lot of people ask are, how did you know it was a good one? Or how did you know to invest? And the answer is pretty simple. I saw a couple people posting on Twitter about it. And this was at the phase where I was still I was spending all my time on crypto. I mean, I still spend most of my time in crypto, but anytime I would see somebody that I liked post about a coin, I wouldn't go buy it, but I would go and I would spend at least 3 or 4 days researching it. And what that meant is you go look through all their websites, you look through all the forums, you download the product, you use it, you look through the code. If you know anything about code, you just look through the activity, and you see the overall sentiment, not only of the product, how it was built, why, what function it serves, the white paper, what the community looks like, all that sort of things. If you want an overview of that, by the way, get the free course, coinmastery.com/Bitcoin. It's all free. I don't sell anything. It'll help you. It'll show you like a 5-step researching system. It's like a 20-minute video that'll just walk you through that. That's truly what I did. And what really stuck out for me was how stoked the developers were, and also how much they integrated the community. Like a lot of these holders were they're actively trying to find ways to make the coin better, to promote the coin. What could they do? The Ryblocks team was featuring like holder of the week, and this was, seemingly a lifetime ago, but 4 or 5 months ago, that was a big deal. Not a lot of people were doing that kind of stuff, had that tight-knit community. And that was really cool to see. And so that was the first big thing. I honestly did not know the tech was what it was. In fact, I thought this was like a replacement for, CAPTCHA on websites where you got to type in these numbers. I thought that's what this was trying to solve, which to me didn't make a lot of sense, but everything else looked so good. That's why I bought it. That being said, that's also why I didn't make videos that like, hey, go in on Ryblocks, because I wasn't really sure how that would play out, and I'm not going to recommend something unless I'm really confident in it. And so it was kind of a put the money in and see what happened, and nothing really happened. And to be perfectly honest, I sold a small percentage of this, right? Because it just wasn't doing anything for a month. Luckily, I held on to most of it. And then it just started screaming up. But the next question people have is, why didn't you sell it when it went 10x or 20x or whatever? And there's two reasons. The first reason is not exciting, and that is I honestly just I wasn't thinking about it. I mean, it wasn't even on my radar of like what I was thinking about. I mean, that kind of, maybe that speaks to how focused I get on different stuff, but that was the first reason. The second reason is because in the grand scheme of my portfolio, it wasn't like this was 20%. I wasn't putting some huge bet on this. And this goes against what I've since adopted as a strategy. My current strategy is buying coins that you really believe in, like Stellar Lumens or Zcoin, as you guys know. Those are coins that I've actively researched and I believe in, and I've put a lot of money into them. And go big on coins you really believe in. This is different than that strategy because I was still learning different forms of different portfolio strategies. And so this to me was not a huge percentage, or it wasn't a big piece of my portfolio. Maybe a couple percentage or whatever it may be, maybe not even. And so because it was a small position size, I didn't have the same financial and emotional attachment to it. Meaning I would ordinarily take profits on this and let everything run. But it was like, all right, well, just let it go and see what happens. And then it quickly became an amount of money that I was like, holy cow, this is really big. But the flywheel had already gone. The social flywheel, the volume has started to pick up big enough. It all happened very quickly. And that's just what happened. And so since then, I've consolidated my positions and done the smart thing and moved some of those profits into other coins that I really believe in. But that's the story. And it's unbelievably profitable experience. I lucked out, but I think that the takeaway I got from this, what I wrote down in my trading journal or whatever you want to call it, is that this was not a strategy. What I did here was a total unicorn event. And while it could work again, this just needs to be a byproduct of some bigger strategy, bigger process, which is what I've talked about, which is identify, let's say 5 to 10 coins that I really, really like and go big on those, have very clear entry and exit targets, and not get hung up on, okay, well, I'll throw some money at this or I'll throw some money at that, unless it's part of my, throw some money pot, my kind of long shot home run pot. And that's what I've learned. That's just what happened to me. Other people have different strategies. That's just what I've done. I'm not trying to find the next 25,000% return coin because it's very, very low probability to do that. What I'm looking for is the next 10 to 50x coins that I can put an enormous amount of money in and have some level of influence with their future progress. I can help them. I can be a part of the community, things like that. So that's really just what happened. And, I hope that thought process can help other people as you go looking for other coins. And again, if you do want to be able to find or whatever, see a very brief overview of that research strategy, coinmastery.com/Bitcoin. It's a free course. I think it's like module 7 or 8 or something. You'll see it. It's all free. All right, here's an interesting article that I actually read this morning. Ryan Selkis, I think he founded CoinDesk, I shouldn't say he's on the digital currency group, venture capitalist, I should say. Just a really interesting, funny, but also very astute writer. He has a good sense of humor, but he's also really smart about what he sees happening over the next year, 2 years. I would encourage anybody to go read this. I don't agree with everything he says, but I do think that he's got some really good points. And one of the biggest is that there's only a handful of coins out there that are true, cryptocurrencies that will last. And there's a lot of coins out there that are going to just get absolutely torched. But it's probably not going to happen for a while. All right. And I think that I can't really summarize this because that wouldn't do it justice. I'll link to this. You should go read it. Create your own opinions on it. Take from it what you like, what you don't like. But he does have a lot of really interesting insights. And I think that this also, more importantly, this gives you a good idea of the mentality out here in Silicon Valley with not the tech elite, but the technologists, I should say. You know, the people that are really fired up about crypto, but as a revolution, especially in the Ethereum camp, a lot of the Coinbase types. This is a really good overview of where they're coming from, what they think about ICOs, what they think about the environment, what they think about big cryptos and stuff like that. This is a really good macro picture, especially going back to the earlier part of the conversation, as you're building your longer term portfolio, as you're building your portfolio in general, this is a good reality check that waking up and seeing 40% gains every single day is not reality. It won't last. My 2 cents, strike while the iron's hot. Take the profits as they come. Play the opportunities as they are presented to you, but be smart about what your long-term positions look like so that you don't wake up one day and realize that you didn't get out in time or you didn't move it back and forth in time. Good article. Definitely go check it out. Props to him for writing this. I think was really funny. I don't know if you guys have ever seen people who they show the Bitcoin chart and they flip it, the image, so it's like a downward exponential curve. They're like, hey, look, I found the US dollar chart, right? That assumes like Bitcoin is a stable coin and the dollar's just appreciating instead of Bitcoin appreciating, the dollar staying the same. But I saw this guy was named Raoul Paul, who runs Global Macro Advisors, I think his company's called, Real TV. He's a really, really smart macro guy he does some with crypto, but he's just like a genius macro guy. And he talked about two of his worst investments in 2017 were the US dollar and oil. And this is something that we often forget about. And this is something I wrestle with a lot that I've tweeted about, which is when you're thinking about cashing out or right, you often say like, oh man, when I cash out of crypto or when I retire from crypto or what am I going to do when I'm done with crypto? And I think that the thing I wrestle with most is I don't know if I would go back to fiat. I'm very apprehensive about the future of the US dollar in the next 10 years, or even the euro or any really fiat currency, government-backed currency. And this, it changes the strategy, the way that you start to think about how will you profit. The easy answer is, well, you just accumulate Bitcoin. Bitcoin's probably going to become the world reserve of wealth. And through that, you can then accumulate other coins for currencies, for utility, whatever it may be. But that's a question that I would encourage anybody to ask yourself and to have an answer for. It's like, what does cashing out mean to you? Does it mean you accumulate more US dollars or euros or yuan or yen or wherever you live? Does it mean something different? And knowing what that is really important. It's going to change the way that you think about this. It's going to change the way you measure your success. And I would encourage you to do it. My 2017 was accumulate more Bitcoin. It continues to be that for now for a variety of reasons, but I'm also starting to see other coins. And maybe I say, if I take profits, I want to accumulate more Bitcoin. I want to accumulate more, let's say, Stellar Lumens, and accumulate more masternodes for Zcoin. I'm just using this as examples just because those are coins that I've been thinking a lot about. But what does that mean to you? What is cashing out? What does that look like from a financial standpoint? Is US dollars still the thing that you'd want to cash out into, knowing that it may be losing 3 to 5% of its value each year. I mean, negative returns, right? Lastly, I'm going to close this. You guys know I'm a Tim Ferriss fan, and I want to thank Matt C. I'm not going to say his last name, who sent this over to me yesterday, because I've been slacking on keeping up with the podcasts, but Tim interviewed this guy Mike Maples recently at a live event, who is a venture capitalist, really smart guy, and also just a really good, seemingly good guy. I've never met Mike Maples, and he talks a lot about investing. He talks a lot about decision making. He also talks about cryptocurrency for about 10 minutes at the end. It's like at the hour and 10-minute mark or something like that. I'll link to this. You can download the podcast, and I would encourage you to listen to it because he has a really unique take on crypto and what this all means. He's a big VC guy, venture capital, and he looks at crypto in a very bullish manner, but he thinks about it a little bit differently than I think about it, that other people think about it, in terms of network effects and the way that the network valuations build out. And I'll let you guys listen to it because he explains it much better than I could. But the bottom line is that the more people that are within an ecosystem, are within the network, whether it be they're interested in it, whether it be they use the product, whether it be they're building stuff for that particular ecosystem, it's just going to be a new way to define wealth. And wealth, as defined by capitalism, is really just, it's built on the idea of trade. And so it's definitely a very economic focused idea, but it's one that I think is worth your time. I think that you guys will all find this really interesting. It also makes you start to realize how the big wins are going to be around the currencies, around the coins that do have the most the most community involvement, the most community excitement, usage, what coins attract people that will build out really amazing ecosystems, networks, through tokens, through marketplaces. And Bitcoin being the most obvious example. Ethereum's actually doing a good job at that, even if you don't love the tech or the product. It's done a pretty good job at that. What else is there, right? Things like Monero do a really good job at that. Beyond just the price. I'm not, price is obviously really important for now. I think it'd be irresponsible for anybody to ignore that and not to make money in the meantime. But when you think about the future, which of these coins are going to attract a lot of people to use them, to update them, to tell their friends about them? What coins will have the biggest network effects? And that drives a lot of my long-term positions in different coins. And I would encourage you guys to listen to it, make your own decisions, at least get a new perspective on it. Cool. All right. So over the next week, or actually over the next 24 hours, which is a month in crypto, keeping an eye on these big ones. Obviously going to keep an eye on this. We'll talk a little bit more about some other stuff that I'm looking at this year. Obviously China and the Chinese coins, I think, is a really good thing to have in your portfolio this year. I think if nothing else, Neo, maybe Quantum, whatever you want to call it, are going to be good bets over the next 6 to 12 months. So keeping an eye on those, and I'll link everything up. As always, guys, it's great seeing you. If you're back at work today, enjoy, and I will talk to you soon. Peace out.